If you've watched the previous videos, you would have learned how to create a user in the database. And when we created users in the database, we asked them for a password. Now, the one thing that if you look into our database now, the one thing that we did incorrectly is we were storing the passwords in the database as plain text. So if we go here and let's go and create another user, I'll just type in anything, type in any email, and then type in 12345 as the password and create the user. You'll notice that the password gets saved in plain text. Now, this is a massive security bug. You would never want a security hole, and you would never ever want to store passwords in a database like that. Otherwise, if someone did get access to your database, they would essentially be able to see all of the passwords of your users. So Laravel comes built in with hashing functionality, which means that it can grab something like a string and convert it into a hash, which then can be stored in the database. It then also has the ability to check that hash to see if someone's password that they've typed in matches that hash. So let's go back to our routes file and let's have a look at how we create a user. So the get request shows the user form and the post request creates the user. So we want to go into our user controller and we want to go to our save user method. So go to app, HTTP controllers and user controller, save user method. Firstly, we want to include the hash helper. So use illuminate support facades hash. You could even use hash if you wanted to, I believe. Now that we've included the helper into our controller, what we can do is we can just, as you can see, this is the standard plain text password that gets passed through from our form. We just need to do hash make, and that will automatically hash the password and store it in the database. So let's go and create another user. Let's just do test person, any email address, and we'll do 12345 again and hit create user. As you can see, the user's been created again, but if we go into our database and hit refresh, you'll notice now the password gets saved as a hash. Now, if someone can see your database, they'll never be able to guess what that person's password is. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete all of these users that don't have secure passwords so that we know that every single user in our database has a hashed password. Great, so we have only one user in our database now. Okay, so the next step with authentication is that we want to restrict parts of the website to logged in users. So we obviously haven't set up the login functionality yet, but let's go and restrict the areas of our website that we have already set up. So as you know, we have the create ability, we have the view ability, and the update and delete ability. So just for housekeeping purposes, I'm going to put /admin in front of every single route we've created now. And this will just mean that it's another part of the website. And then what we can do is if we obviously go to admin users, it's going to show the users. But we want this to be inaccessible to people who are not logged in. So to do that, we use something called middleware. Laravel has built-in middleware, which allows you for restricting controllers. So as you can see in the middleware folder here, there's authenticate, there's redirect if authenticated. So basically what redirect if authenticated is if somebody is already logged in, you may not want them to visit a certain page like the login page because they're already logged in. So what it would do would automatically redirect the person to the dashboard if they go to the login page if they're logged in. But to keep things simple, we're just going to use the authenticate middleware. So to easily protect a section of your website, all you'd need to do is go into a specific controller. So let's go to the user controller. As you know, this controller was set up for all the functions of being able to see and edit and delete and create users. So all we need to do is we need to create the construct method, public function underscore construct. And inside there, we just do this middleware auth. Now what that's going to do is it's going to check the middleware, and the middleware basically checks if someone is logged in, and if they are not logged in, it will redirect them back to the login route. Now our login route hasn't even been set up yet, so it will create an error, but let's try. So let's hit refresh. Now because we're not logged in, it's gone, okay, they're not logged in, we're going to send them to the login route, but we haven't set up a login route, so let's create one now. Let's go and create route get login. We'll call it a name of login because that's what the Authenticate middleware is referring to. And we will then point it to a new controller. Let's create a controller called Auth controller. So let's go and open up terminal and just do PHP artisan make controller Auth controller. Now that the controller is set up, let's go into the controller. Actually, let's go back into our route and just do Auth controller, and we'll just make it go to a method called login. Now let's create the, actually, I just missed something here. It's semicolon. Let's go into our Auth controller and create that method, public function login. And this is obviously the GET request. So it's just going to take them to the login page. So let's do return view, and now we're going to have to create a view. So if we go to our resources and in our views folder, let's create a new view. We'll just call it login.blade.php. We can then copy the code from another Blade file. So let's just copy it from the users file, paste it into our login page, and delete the table and all this stuff that we have in there. So we have a clean slate, and we'll just put an H1 called login. Go back to your Auth controller and make it go to the view, which is called login. If we now refresh, we should see the login page there. Let's make it look a bit better though, because now we have Bootstrap in our project. Let's do a Google search for Bootstrap sign in template. Actually, I think it might be sign in template for Bootstrap. Okay, there we go, getbootstrap.com. Okay, there's a sign-in template there. So this is pretty decent. Let's just copy this. So let's just right click, view page source, grab the form part, and we'll paste it into our login Blade file. And we'll also grab the CSS. So we'll just grab this part. Don't worry about the body and all that. Go into our SAS file, our app.sas. And we'll actually import another file just to keep it clean. So we'll just firstly create the SAS file. So right click on the SAS folder, go new file, save, and then just call it signin_signin.scss. And then we'll do import sign in. And I'm just going to put a comment there. And inside there, let's just paste in that CSS or SCSS. And then we want to obviously make sure that it builds and compiles. Great. So it didn't seem to do it automatically, so I just pressed enter and it started working. And then we'll go back to our application. We'll just get out of this stuff here, hit refresh, and you'll see that our login page doesn't look exactly how it should. So let's just go back to our login page and make sure. What we should probably do is go back to that Bootstrap sign-in template and copy the whole thing, not just the form part. So we'll go paste that back into our signin.scss, wait for Laravel mix to run, if it wants to run. And hit refresh. There we go. Okay, great. So now we have our sign-in page. So it's like any other form. I'm just going to clean everything up just to make it nice and tidy. Let's just remove this image and we'll just do margin top as 5 just so it kind of centers it a bit. There we go. And yeah, like every other form, the form needs to have an action, which will be a post request to a route that we're going to set up. and we just need to put in the names for our fields. So this is the email field here. So we'll just do name equals email, and we'll do for our password, name equals password. I'm not too fussed about the IDs and all that stuff because this is just for demonstration purposes. And if we refresh again, nothing's changed obviously. Don't forget to put the CSRF field at CSRF. And then we need to obviously send it through to a route. So let's create a route. We've already got a GET request to log in. So let's do a POST request to log in now. And we'll make it go to the auth controller again, and we'll create a method called sign in. We'll give it a name of sign in as well. If we go back into our auth controller, we'll just do public function sign in. And we need to accept the request. So we do the request type int. And now if say I do request email, a die and a dump, and we go and fill out this form, hit sign in, it should, oh, okay, so it's got the automatic validation in browser, so I'll just fill out the password as well, and nothing's working there. So let's refresh it, try again. You'll notice here that it's actually doing a GET request. So let's just go back to our login and make sure that we, that is a very rookie error. We need to actually add in all the stuff. So action equals route sign in, and the method is the post method. Okay, so now let's refresh again and try it again. So what should be happening now is that when the form gets submitted, it sends the request parameters to that sign-in method we created. And right now it should be doing a die and a dump with just the email. So it should just be spitting back the email that we do. There we go. So that's definitely working. If we go back into our controller and do password, refresh and just try our password. Password is coming back too. Great. So let's go back into our login blade file and just remove this remember me as well. So remember me is gone now. So now what we want to do is we want to try and authenticate this user. Laravel makes it very easy for us to do that. If we go back into our auth controller, and we firstly need to include the auth facade or the auth helper. So to do that, we need to do use illuminate support facades auth. And that's going to allow us to check if someone's logged in. Then we do, firstly, we want to do the validation. So we'll do request validate. We want to make sure that we're receiving an email and a password before we even attempt to validate it. So we'll do email required password required. Now, if the validation passes, we then want to do a hash attempt, which is hash, oh, sorry, my bad, auth, an auth attempt. Auth attempt, and then inside that function, we just need to feed through the email and the password. So let's just do email, and then the arrow, request email, and then the password is request password. Now, if this happens, what's going to happen is it's going to return true. So I'm going to do a die and a dump of this auth attempt, and we'll refresh the page and we'll just do anything, any email or any password. As you can see, it returns false. However, if we try this email that we set up earlier, and I'm pretty sure the password was 12345. So let's paste that in and do 12345. There we go, we get a return of true. So now if the return response is true, then what we want to do is we want to log the user in. So to do that, what we do is we just take away the die and the dump here, and we want to make this an if statement. So we'll do if auth attempt is true, then what we want to do is we want to return a redirect intended. Now intended means that, let's just say if they try and go to the dashboard, so they just go directly in the URL to the dashboard, but they haven't logged in, it's obviously going to take them to the login page. But then when they log in, we want it to take them to their intended location. So it will actually, instead of just logging them into the page that usually logs in once they log in, it takes them to the page that they initially typed in the browser, if that makes sense. So we're going to do return redirect intended, and we're going to send them to the route, which is, we're going to make it go to, let's see, which route are we going to send them to? We'll make them go to the users page. So show users, let's create a named route for that. So show users, we'll just create a route name and go to our auth controller, make it go intended and then route, show users. There we go. Else, if it doesn't log them in, we don't want them to be redirected. We want it to come back. So we'll do return redirect back with danger. That was one of our validation names. And we'll do login is incorrect. I mean, you can make it whatever you want, but we'll just call it that. So let's refresh, let's go back and we'll just type in anything. And don't forget, we need to actually go into our login blade and include our validation includes file. So let's go to our create user section, get our validation includes file, paste it at the top of our form there. And let's try now. Login is incorrect. I don't know why it's come up there, but we'll fix that up in a second. Let's just let's put a container around this form, and then within there, and then we'll do div clear fix. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, still not doing exactly how we want it to. Maybe we could make the validation, take away the container, put the validation inside this form here. And let's try it one more time. Cool, all right. Doesn't look the best, but you can obviously use styling to make the alert look much better than it is. So the login is incorrect. So let's try and log in with the correct details and see what it does. So let's grab the email here and we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit sign in. As you can see, because we're logged in, we can see the users and we can go and view user and all that sort of stuff. And look, I'll tell you what's happened is this style sheet that we used for the sign in, for the body here, has completely stuffed it up. So let's just save that again and see if maybe it works without that. Yeah, good. Okay, cool. So if we go back to login now, you'll notice that even though we are technically logged in, we can still visit the login page, which shouldn't be happening. We want to be able to use that middleware. The let's have a look. Middleware, redirect if authenticated middleware. So if we go into the redirect if authenticated middleware and we look at the redirection, it's actually redirecting them back to home if they're logged in. So we wanted to obviously redirect to the show users page. So we'll just go redirect to the route of show users. And then we need to use that middleware. So if we go into our auth controller, we can just do, instead of using it in the construct method within our auth controller, we can go into our routes file and we can incorporate it here. middleware, and the name of the middleware, correct me if I'm wrong, is guest. So let's try and refresh that now. As you can see, if we refresh the login page, we automatically get taken to the dashboard or to our users page because we're logged in. Let's go into incognito mode and we'll do the same thing again. We'll just go to login. You'll notice the sign in page is there. If we try to go to users page, we're not logged in. Actually, the users page doesn't exist. So we want to, let's go to admin users create. Automatically takes us to the sign in page. So now let's log in. I'll just take that email. Oops. Email and the password 12345, sign in. That takes us to the admin users create page. Now I'm not sure why it's taking us to the admin users create page because we didn't ask it to do that. However, the reason why that's happening is because we used that intended function. So I'll get out of incognito and we'll try it again. So let's go and open up a new incognito window and we'll do laravel.development. Go /login and we'll sign in with the details, but let's do laravel.development /users. We'll see what route we want to use. Users / we'll just do admin users. Okay, admin users. It takes us to the login page, put in our password. And then because it's going to be using that intended function, it's going to take us to the users page after we log in. There we go. Okay, so now we know how to authenticate a user and log them in and also do a hash check. Now what we want to do is simply do a logout. Logout is really simple. These days we use a post request to do logout. I don't think it's mandatory, but it's probably best practice to do a post request. So to do that, you just need to create a new route. We'll just do route post logout, if you want to call it that. And we'll make it go to the auth controller as well, and we'll just create a method called logout. We'll also call the route and logout. Then if we go to our auth controller and just create a new method, we'll just do public function logout. And all we have to do is auth logout. And return redirect back. Cool. So now that we've done that, what we can do is we can go into our we'll go into our master.blade, and at the top we'll just add a link. Actually, we'll create a form. We'll add the CSRF field, and we will then do a button, a type of submit, and we'll just do logout. And then we'll make the form method equals post, and the action will be to log out. The name of the route is called logout, so we'll just do route logout. And now, because we're logged in, we should see the logout button. If we click on logout, it will automatically take us back to the sign in page. But as you can see, we're using the master template, and the sign in page uses the master template as well. So you could, if you did it that way, you could use different templates, one for the authentication and one for the dashboard, or you could just do in Blade, if auth check, end if, and that's only going to show if you're logged in. There you go. So we'll try and log in now. I'll get that email again. 12345. Sign in. And then we can, create a user, for example. And then we can log out, and it takes us back to the sign-in page. And now we can obviously can't go into the protected areas anymore. So that is how you do authentication in Laravel. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to create your own forgot and reset password section. How it's going to work is someone's going to go to the page, type in their email address because they forgot their password. The system will automatically generate a unique key which it will store in a table called forgotten passwords. Then it will send an email with a link that the person can click on. Once they click on that link, they can reset their password, and then they'll be automatically logged back into their account after they reset their password.